그레타 툰베리의 No one is too small to make a difference. 음독하도록 하겠습니다. 페이지 70페이지입니다. Because how could it be? How could we be facing an existential crisis that would threaten our very survival? And yet, that wasn't our first priority. If there really was a crisis this big, then we would rarely talk about anything else. As soon as you turned on the TV, everything would be about that. Headlines, radio, newspapers. You would almost never read or hear about anything else. And the politicians would surely have done what was needed by now, wouldn't they? They would hold crisis meetings all the time, declare climate emergencies everywhere, and spend all the working hours handling the situation and informing people what was going on. But it never was like that. The climate crisis was treated just like any other issue, or even less than that. Every time you heard a politician speak about this, they never talk with urgency. According to them, there were always countless new technologies and simple solutions that, when put in place, would solve everything. Politicians 1 second say that climate change is the most important topic. We are going to do anything we can to stop it. And the next second, they want to expand airports, build new coal power plants and motorways, and then they fly off in a private jet to attend the meeting on the other side of the world. That is not how you act in the crisis. And humans are social animals. We cannot get away from the fact. And as long as you, the leaders, act like everything is fine and you have something under control, people won't understand that we are in an emergency. You can't only keep talking about specific isolated solutions to specific isolated problems. We need to see the full picture. If we say that we cannot solve this crisis just by maybe increasing or lowering some taxes, phasing out coal in 10 or 15 years, putting up solar panels on new buildings or manufacturing more electric cars, then people will think we can solve this crisis with a few political reforms without anyone making a real effort. And that is very dangerous because specific isolated solutions are no longer enough. And yet, you know this. We now need to change practically everything. We now need a whole new way of thinking. I know you are desperate for hope and solutions, but the biggest source of hope and the easiest solution is right in front of you, and it has been all along, and it is us, people. And the fact that we don't know. We humans are not stupid. We are not ruining the biosphere and future living conditions for all species because we are evil. We are simply not aware. But once we understand, once we realize the situation, then we act, we change. Humans are very adaptable. So instead of only being obsessed with finding solutions to a problem that most of us do not even know exists, we must also focus on informing us about the actual problem. We must acknowledge that we do not have the situation under control and that we don't have all the solutions yet. We must admit that we are losing this battle. We must stop playing with words and numbers because we no longer have time for that. And in the words of author Alex Steffin, winning slowly is the same thing as losing. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to turn this around. It is. So let's not wait any longer. Let's start acting. For too long, the people in power have gotten away with basically not doing anything to stop climate ecological breakdown. They have gotten away with stealing our future and selling it for profit. But we young people are waking up, and we promise we will not let you get away with it anymore. You cannot simply make up your own facts. French National Assembly, Paris, July 23rd, 2019. I have some good and some bad news regarding the climate emergency. I will start with the good news. The world, as a small number of people have been saying lately, will not end in 11 years. The bad news, however, is that around the year 2030, if we continue with business as usual, we will likely be in a position where we may pass a number of tipping points. And then we might no longer be able to undo the irreversible climate breakdown. A lot of people, a lot of politicians, business leaders, journalists say that we don't agree with what we children are saying. They say we are exaggerating, that we are alarmist. To answer this, I would like to refer to page 108, chapter 2, the latest IPCC report. There you will find all our opinions summarized, because there you find our remaining carbon dioxide budget. Right there it says that if we are to have a 67% chance of limiting the global temperature rise to below 1.5 Celsius degree we had on January 1st, 2018, 420 gigatons of carbon dioxide left in our CO2 budget. And of course, that number is much lower today. We emit about 42 gigatons of CO2s every year. At current emission levels, the remaining budget is gone within roughly 8.5 years. These numbers are as real as it gets, though a great number of scientists suggest they are too generous. These are the ones that have been accepted by all nations through the IPCC. And not one single time have I heard any politician, journalist, or business leader even mention these numbers. It is almost like you don't even know they exist, as if you haven't even read the latest IPCC report, on which the future of our civilization is depending. Or maybe you are simply not mature enough to tell it like it is. Because even the burden you leave to us children. We become the bad guys who have to tell people these uncomfortable things because no one else wants to or dares to. And just for coding and acting on these numbers, this scientific fact, we receive unimaginable amounts of hate and threat. We are being mocked and lied about by elected officials, members of parliament, business leaders, journalists. What I really would like to ask all of those who question our so-called opinions or think that we are extreme, do you have a different budget for at least a reasonable chance of staying below 1.5 Celsius degree of warming? Is there another intergovernmental panel on climate change? Is there a secret? Paris Agreement that we don't know about, or that does not include the aspect of equity. Because these are the numbers that count. This is the current best available science. You cannot simply make up your own fact just because you don't like what you hear. There is no middle ground when it comes to the climate and ecological emergency. Of course, you could argue that we should go for a more risk pathway, such as the ultimate of 580 gigatons of CO2 from January 1st, 2018, which gives us 50-50 chance of limiting the global temperature rise to below 1.5 Celsius degree. That amount of carbon dioxide will run out in about 12 years of current business as usual. But why should we do that? Why should we accept taking that risk? Leaving the future living conditions for mankind to 50-50 flip of a coin. 420 gigatons left of CO2s to emit, and now the number is down to less than 360 gigatons. And please note that these figures are global and therefore do not say anything about the aspect of equity, clearly stated throughout the Paris Agreement, which is absolutely necessary to make it work on a global scale. That means the richer countries need to get down to zero emission faster so that people in poorer parts of the world can heighten their standard living by building some of the infrastructure that we have already built, such as roads, hospitals, electricity, schools, and providing clean drinking water. And because you have ignored this fact, because you and pretty much of all of media to this very minute keep ignoring them, people do not know what is going on. If you respect the science, if you understand the science, then this is it. 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit on January 2018 to have a 67% chance of saying below 1.5 Celsius degree global temperature rise, according to IPCC. In the Paris Agreement, we have only signed up for staying below 1.5 to 2 Celsius degree of temperature rise, and that of course gives us the bigger remaining carbon dioxide budget. But the latest IPCC report shows that aiming instead for below 1.5 Celsius degree would significantly reduce the climate impact, and that would most certainly have countless human lives. This is what it's all about. This is all that we are saying. But I will also tell you this. You cannot solve a crisis without treating it like a crisis, without seeing the future full picture. You cannot leave the responsibility to individuals, politicians, the market, or other parts of the world to take. This has to include everything and everyone. Once you realize how painfully small the size of our remaining carbon dioxide budget is, once you realize how fast it is disappearing, once you realize that basically nothing is being done about it, and once you realize that almost no one is even aware of the fact that CO2 budget even exists, and tell me, just exactly what do you do, and how do you do it without sounding alarmist? That is the question we must ask ourselves and the people in power. The science is clear, and all we children are doing is communicating and acting on that united science. Now the political leaders in some countries are starting to talk. They are starting to declare climate emergencies and announcing dates for so-called climate neutrality, and declaring a climate emergency is good. But only setting up these vague, distant dates and saying things which give the impression that things are being done and that action is underway will most likely do more harm than good, because the changes required are now nowhere in sight. Not in France, not in the EU, nowhere. And I believe that the biggest danger is not our inaction. The real danger is when companies and politicians are making it look like a real action is happening, when in fact almost nothing is being done apart from clever accounting and creative PR. The climate and ecological emergency is right here, right now, but it has only just begun. It will get worse. 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit on January 1st, 2018, to have a 67% chance of staying below 1.5 Celsius degree global temperature rise. And now that figure is already down to less than 360 gigatons. At current emission levels, the remaining budget is gone within roughly 8.5 years. In fact, since I started this speech, the world has emitted about 800,000 tons of CO2. And if anyone still has excuses not to listen, not to act, not to care, I ask you once again, is there another intergovernmental panel on climate change? Is there a secret Paris Agreement that we don't know about? One that does not include the aspect of equity? Do you have a different budget for at least a reasonable chance of staying below 1.5 Celsius degree of global temperature rise? Some people have chosen not to come here today. Some people have chosen not to listen to us, and this is fine. We are, after all, just as children. We don't have to listen to us, but you have to listen to the United Science, the scientists, and that is all we ask. Unite behind the science.